So this is the second team from New York, but we have a surprise for you for the third team.
Hi, I'm Tracy Gromek, and this is my partner Pingel, and his work slides aren't up. Is that okay? Should we put it up high? Because it's not actually going on there. Is that better? There we go. Okay. I'm Tracy Gromek, and this is my partner Pingel, and we are co-founders of the Brooklyn-based multidisciplinary design and technology company, Electronic Bohemia. And our game proposal is entitled Sex Ed Super Task Force. And in this adventure game, you have been recruited by superheroes, and they want to train you in the art of defense against issues such as avoiding teen pregnancy, STIs, and peer pressure. Well, as with any good superhero, your goal is to protect the citizens. So using your newly acquired skills, you're going to guide citizens towards physically safer and emotionally healthier relationships with their sexuality. To ultimately win this game, players must successfully pass 4 challenges, each consisting of training simulations and a real-world mission. Now, we assume players have no prior sexual health knowledge, but we aim through experiential play to have them to support their growth in the physical and the emotional aspects of sexual well-being. And that leads us into our first goal. By the end of the game, players will be able to explain why, when, and how to protect themselves physically and prepare emotionally for sex. And in terms of content, it looks something like this. Now, to make this content easily digestible, we're tackling these 4 main sections one at a time, and the content within these sections, bit by bit and piece by piece, with each new section building upon the knowledge gained in the previous section or sections. Our second design goal is to have players recognize that they have the ability to positively influence the world. We want our players to become advocates. So we designed this game to be as inclusive as possible. Most information is applicable to anyone, no matter what their gender identity or their sexual orientation. We kept in line all of our explicit visuals. We kept in line with Answers Standard. We want players to be comfortable playing this game in a public setting, in school, with their teachers, in front of their parents. Our visual direction, we really took our cue from the Sex Etc. site, especially the use of fonts, their color palette, and icons. And lastly, we chose a bit of a whimsical approach when it came to the visuals and the narrative. And we did this because sometimes this topic can have a little bit of an awkwardness around it, and it can be kind of burdensome on the shoulders of our players, and we don't want to do that. Well, let's talk about the actual game. It starts off with you chatting with a group of your best friends around the lunch table, and one of them brings up the fact that at a doctor visit, they found out that they had a sexually transmitted infection, and they have no clue how this happened because they used a condom. So you're listening intently, and you are trying to figure out, well, what else don't I know? Why didn't anyone teach me this information? So you have such stress that the task force picks up on this, and they beam you up onto their airship, where you meet some 3 pretty strange-looking superheroes, and they introduce themselves. You've got Colonel Desire, and it's made entirely of hands, so it can't help but touch itself the entire time it's talking to you. And then you've got Private Thoughts, and it's very in tune with human emotions. It always has something on its mind, but you can't ever really quite tell exactly what it's thinking. You've also got Lieutenant Love Glove. Very warm and welcoming. The whole point of Lieutenant Love Glove is to make you feel comfortable around it. And by shedding its wrapper, it can dawn into its alternate form, but that's short-lived. And then it's got to transform into a brand new condom. Well, these superheroes explain that they have dedicated their lives towards aiding members of the community in all matters of sexual health. And they ask you to train with them. But they inform you that in order to become a full-fledged superhero, well, you're going to need to successfully guide citizens through 4 sexual health missions. But don't worry, because they assure you that you're going to get tons of training in their practice simulations before they send you on these real-world missions. And with that, the Colonel hurries you down the hallway to begin training in your first area. So in this click and drag multi-stage simulation, players are introduced to the 7 most common teen STIs, their methods of transmission and protection, and possible treatments. The player is presented with an open network of sexually active citizens, those circles, who may have an STI, and that's the colored icon inside of the circle. As citizens get nearer to each other, then the sexual attraction, that red line between them, well, that can occur. It doesn't always have to happen, but it can occur. And as soon as sexual attraction happens, sometimes a sexual action will follow. And an icon will appear in between to show you which action that the couple's engaging in. And that could be kissing, touching with clothes on, skin-to-skin genital contact, or sex, which in this entire game can mean oral, anal, or vaginal sex. Well, the player must limit the rate of infection in the community through the timely use of barrier protection, visits to the clinic, by limiting partners, and by avoiding high-risk activity. Now, you could have citizen use their willpower. That red circle that surrounds them to abstain. You just have to click on the person and you drag them away from their partner until that line breaks. But willpower is a limited resource, and the more you use it, the longer it's going to take to charge up. So during this entire simulation, you are presented with all the information you need. If someone has an STI, you know it, even if no symptoms are present. So unfortunately, the monitoring tools for the mission, not as clear as in the simulation. And so your information is limited. Unless a citizen clearly has a physical sign, you're not going to know who has an STI. So you have to be vigilant with sending them to the clinic, limiting their partners, and distributing condoms. So now that you know why and when to use a condom, you need to know how. Specifically, how do you accurately use one and how do you store one? Well, in this first simulation, you're charged with guiding Lieutenant Loveglove to an enamored couple before they engage in sexual activity. And in this platform, you're going to need to navigate your way through a maze of condom-destroying monsters like sharp objects, pens, pencils, keys, sunlight, and flying wallets. Now, you can find and use condom cases and empty mint tins for short bursts of invincibility. In the second simulation, we focus on using the condom through gestural mouse input. So Lieutenant Loveglove, he's going to shed his wrapper and he's going to guide you step by step through the process of checking an expiration date, putting on and taking off a condom, and turning a condom into a dental dam. Your new skills are going to be put to the ultimate test at your real-world mission challenge, which is located at the local college's sex ed rally. Now, you're going to need to demo the proper steps for using a condom and turning a condom into a dental dam for as many people as you can within a short period of time. And since we know that there's going to be distractions and stress in the bedroom, we're going to aim to mimic those same emotions when we go into this game. Players also have to check all the citizens, and if they grab a free condom and throw it haphazardly into a wallet or a purse, the player needs to stop what they're doing in the demo, hand that citizen a free condom case for better storage, and then continue on where they left off in their demo. So the first two areas, they deal about preventing infection. And in this third area, we're going to add the extra challenge of preventing unwanted pregnancy. So in coupled contraception, you're responsible for supporting a young couple as they get accustomed to their new regime of using both hormone-based and barrier methods of protection. The goal of this point-and-click game is to keep the couple's romance alive and blossoming while avoiding pregnancy and infection. Occupying red areas raises the romance factor and libido meters, while occupying blue areas, the distractions, renders you immobile for short periods of time. Now, whenever that libido meter, and that's the red inside the player icon, when that gets filled up, the player is going to engage in sexual behavior. You need to collect birth control pills and condoms so they're available to use when the need arises, and administer a daily pill at the right time. If, by some chance, you forget, or you cannot administer your pill or your condom, or the condom breaks, you need to tell that couple that they need to call the doctor for advice. And that's where we're going to introduce emergency contraception. So first three areas, they've learned all about how to prevent infection and avoid unwanted pregnancy. The physical elements of sexual health, but in the real world, it's not that simple. A teen's life is filled with social and emotional issues. And so this final area is focusing on developing skills and strategies to recognize emotional readiness, to deal with peer pressure, and to communicate their personal needs and their boundaries. So in area 4, you're going to engage closely with individuals, and you're going to talk through decisions in an attempt to have them make better choices regarding sexuality. Working with Answer, the content in this section is all going to be based on real-world stories through individual interviews and Sex Etc. forum. And links to those interviews will be placed at the end of the mission so players can have a better understanding that the content of this game is from the real world. So this entire area uses branching narratives. It's up to the player to decide if and when to offer another teen aid by pressing the Speak Up button. Private Thoughts is going to be listening in, providing you with guidance on how to determine the best action. When a player's choice ends the narrative, the effects that it ultimately had on the teen are shown. And in the summation of the encounter, Private Thoughts will go into detail regarding the choices you made along the way, as well as advice on how to better approach the situation if it's applicable. So at the completion of Mission 4, you have done it. You have proven yourself to be one fantastic sex ed superhero, and you graduate from the training program with flying colors. So congratulations. Our ultimate goal for this game is to create sexually healthy teens by educating them in the why, in the when, and the how of protection and emotional readiness. And we also want them to recognize that they can make a difference in the lives of their siblings, their friends, and other teens who are just like them around this country by sharing in this knowledge. Thank you very much.
That was perfect timing. I watched the clock.
I practiced a lot.
1 second ago. Jury, please.
So I like that you have this narrative arc and that you have these several different mini games. When you've completed the game, is there any thought to how you would have replayability, or is it something that you envision like sort of a one-time playthrough?
Actually, we've thought a lot about replayability, especially because the training missions, your simulations, you should be able to constantly play them, and especially like the branching narrative. I'll give you an example. That you can continue, I'll go back to the slide, you can continue to replay the mission. He doesn't give you the exact answer. He just gives you advice. So you can replay it. You can choose to end the mission. So we'll have 5 easy, 5 medium, and 5 difficult branching narratives. And if you do really well in an easy, you'll get moved up to a harder one, and so on and so on. If you're having enough and you've meddled and you don't want to play anymore, you could end the mission. So we want to make sure that they can continue to keep going back and forth. And the same thing with the other games.
Yeah, it's overall the very much the simulation mode very much brings you into the game, but then for all the missions, we're very much looking towards making them replayable.
But the simulation you want to do it with basically we don't want it to be that somebody always comes out from the right side of the first player. Like it's
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
it'll
but
sort of
generative elements.
Yeah.
What I was curious about was, as I was looking at this, I was wondering about on a smaller screen. Have you given some thought to, would this be playable on like a smartphone? I'm just imagining some of this content just on a smaller screen.
Yeah, and I think that's one of, especially with we shouldn't have any issues with 4. This as well. This actually, section 3, all those circles come in and out. So it's moving. It's not stationary. So you're able to navigate the space. And a lot of these areas you're able to navigate space.
Yeah, no, and we're very much looking towards like making it possible to play it on a smaller screen. It's just usually always a good idea to start a little bit bigger in terms of the idea, and then see throughout like what elements can you take out, and then bring it to a smaller screen. But we have that very much in mind.
Since we're on the slide, this third game, you're controlling where the couple is moving on the
Yeah.
screen? And so am I understanding that the objective is to sort of dodge the red areas until you have the right stuff, like
Well,
contraceptives and condoms, and then you want to go into the red area, or how do you?
Yeah, kind of. Your whole point is to make that romance score really, really high, and so going into the red areas raises that factor. And so you kind of want to go in and out depending upon where you are with your supplies.
So every time they successfully romance,
Yeah.
then this score at the bottom here goes up. Is that?
Well, it's with anything. Like they're talking to each other up there. One, they're just enamored with each other. There's all these little icons that you can also grab for extra bonuses within the circles. Just kissing. So it doesn't actually have to be that they engage in sex. It could be
It's basically
anything that can use a condom for protection. Yeah.
It's the time spent within the
With the
circles phrases.
And part of it is for this game, for especially 3, we really want to push the fact that contraception is both partners' responsibility, and that we figured that if you by chance don't need to use birth control, you can still get something out of this game from understanding that you have to work together and just creating your romance factor a little bit higher.
I want to add, sorry, so the fact that you're doing all these mini games though adds a level of complexity. I just want to you guys talk a little bit about how you guys plan on implementing, what tools you plan on using, just because you're making more games.
Yeah, very much. We're looking towards like basically hacking our own game engine out of like HTML5 elements and bringing it all together. So I guess I'll speak more to
I heard.
Yeah, and a lot of the games too, the actual mechanics aren't that complicated. I mean, it's click and drag, it's narrative based, so you're clicking in one spot. We're trying not to make the game interaction too complicated for coding because there is a lot of work, and we understand that.
What's the method of distribution for condoms in the first game? Is it that you drag someone to the clinic
No, you just grab a condom.
Oh, you
and
grab a
move
condom
it to
and
the-
so you can sort of like just grab condoms and give them to all the people on the screen
Who
if
need
you're
them,
fast
right?
enough.
Yeah, because you can't put them on, if someone's kissing, you're not gonna give them a condom. But they do need to know that if they're kissing and someone has an outbreak of herpes, they're gonna get herpes. So that's part of the 7 different common STIs.
Last question, anyone? Should we take maybe an audience question? Someone?
So this game is, sorry, this game is dealing just strictly with heterosexual sex, or?
No, it deals with everybody. It's,
Yeah.
but yeah, the whole point is that it doesn't deal explicitly with hetero, with homo, with anybody who's got any kind of sexual interaction will be able to use this content.
Except for the birth
The birth
control
control.
part, of course, that's specific, but beyond that.
And well, condoms are less well, you need them. We've tried to make it as inclusive as possible by not really focusing on one aspect, one type of couple.
Okay, thank you guys. Electronic Bohemia. So the third team, I promised a surprise, is the team from France. Really surprised us that the team from France was interested in the subject matter, but they were. And the name of the team is Engmin, that's the name of the company. And I welcome you to present your game.
Hi, I'm Juliette Levelin, and I'm a 2D artist.
I'm Julien Barbe, I'm a game designer, and with Stéphane Madero stayed in France, unfortunately, who is another game designer. We prepared a game called Checkmate. Actually, Engmin is the name of the school we went to, a video game school, and we called ourselves Teammate. Julie?
So the basic idea of the game came from the research we made about it. So we researched some image about educational websites. So we just make a comparison between food image and sex ed image. For the food, the subject is clear. It's yummy, colorful, and looks delicious. It's easy to know what they want us to do. But for sex ed image, it's more complicated and not that clear. And for us, it's hard to make a teenager interested about it. So. So it's the first challenge came out from it. How to attract young people, and but it wasn't our first. Sorry, our only challenge.